Hey guys, Mark here. I hope you're doing well. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a fairly large rectangular rope mat. This mat, like many others, can be used as a doormat or as a hot pad under hot dishes on the table. Here you can see an example of a mat that we're going to be making today. This is a 4-pass version of the mat, since it has 4 strands running through the entire mat. Now the proportions of the mat are about 3:5. It has 5 bites on the long ends and 3 bites on the short ends. So with this said, let's move on to the supplies needed to make this mat. The main supply for our mat is going to be rope. The diameter of our rope, as well as the number of passes in our mat, are going to determine the size of our mat. The larger the diameter of our rope, and the more passes that we use, the larger our mat is going to be. This specific mat was done using a 1/4-inch hemp rope. You can also use other types of rope, for example cotton, sisal, manila, or artificial ropes, or even old climbing rope. Now, this specific mat was done using a single strand of rope. The rope was 63 feet long. Since a single rope is a bit hard to manage, you can also make this mat using 4 pieces of rope. Each piece is going to make 1 pass. In this case, you will need 4 pieces, each about 16 feet long. So you can either use 1 piece, 63 feet long, or 4 pieces, each 16 feet long. The next supply is going to be duct tape. Duct tape is used to secure the ends of your rope and prevent them from fraying or unraveling. You could also do a whipping, but duct tape is faster. You're also going to need a pair of scissors or a knife to cut your rope. The next 2 supplies are going to be thread and needle. These 2 are usually used in order to stitch together the 2 ends once we have tied the mat. This prevents your mat from coming undone. As you can see, I usually use thread which is of a similar color to the rope. This makes it stand out less. Finally, I would recommend using some pins in order to keep your mat in place while you're tying it. This is not absolutely needed, but it does come in handy. With these supplies covered, let's finally begin tying our mat. For my demonstration of the tying process, I'm going to be using a single piece of rope. Again, this length is 63 feet of a 1/4-inch hemp rope. I highly recommend that you start your tying at the middle point of your rope. So if you fold it in half, at the middle point we're going to begin tying. This way, we're going to have 2 shorter ends to work with, which is a lot easier when you're doubling up, tripling up, or quadrupling your mat. So start your tying at the middle point of your rope. Now I'm going to be using a shorter piece of rope for my demonstration, since pulling the entire length of an end is a bit time consuming. We're now going to begin tying our mat. We're going to start by making a loop like this, with our end crossing over the other strand. Like this. Pick up your end and pass it under for a second time. Then pass over the loop like this. Continue by passing over the loop once more, like this, so over the top, over 3 strands. Pass over the loop once more, over 3 again, like this. Now pass under this bight, so under 2, then under this bight, again under 2, then pass over all of these strands and under the bight on the bottom left. So over 4 and under 1. Like this. Then pass over these strands, so over 4, under 1, and over 1, like this. Then we're going to turn up and travel through these 4 strands, going under 1, then over 3, like this. Then we're going to weave through these 5 strands, beginning with an under, so under, over, under, over, and under. like this. Then pass under this strand. So under it and under this strand. Then weave over, under, over, under, over and under, here, like this. Then I'm going to weave through these strands. So we have 8 in an over 1 under 1 sequence. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over and under. Like this. And now for our final sequence, we're going to weave through these 4 strands, going over, under, over, under. And with this, our mat is tied. We're now going to place our working hand alongside our standing hand, so over, under, and this finishes one pass of our mat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to begin to rearrange our mat. Before we begin doubling it up, then tripling it up, it is important that we get it into proper shape. So at this point, I'm going to remove my pins. And now I'm going to arrange my mat so that it looks proper. So what I'm going to do is basically make sure that I have 3 bites at the top, 3 at the bottom, then 5 at the sides, and that my mat is in equal proportions. I need it to look nice and symmetrical before I begin to enlarge it with a second, third, and fourth pass. So as you can see, I am arranging the spacings between my strands and making sure that everything looks equal. You may need to work in additional rope if needed. The main thing is to get a nice and equal looking mat. At some point you're going to be happy with the layout of your mat. So we have 5 bites at the sides, 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom. We now need to double up, triple up, and quadruple our mat. Now, if you started at the middle point of your rope, you should have 2 ends which we need to work into the mat. You can start with either one, and all you do is you follow the other end. So here they meet up under one, and then with my working end, I'm going to follow the standing end and with the standing end I'm going to follow the working end. Like this. Now at some point you're going to run out of rope in your working hand. At that point, pick up the standing end and do the exact same thing. So follow the working hand into the mat and begin doubling it up. Use up all of your rope, which should be enough to make a 4-pass version of this mat. After enlarging my mat into the 4-pass version, it is time to finish it up. At the bottom of the mat, so at the underside, our two ends are going to meet. We're now going to stitch them or lash them together. In fact, you have several options for finishing: stitching, lashing, splicing back the ends into the other strands. There are a ton of ways for finishing the mat. What I'm going to do is trim the working end like this, and to remove this tape out of the standing end. So after removing my tape, I have the two ends and 3 strands that I can connect together. At this point, the two ends of our rope are not secured. To fix this in a decorative way, we're going to apply a whipping onto each of the ends. To do this, remove an end, like this, and relay it. Just make sure that the strands in your rope are twisted into shape. Like this. We're now going to take a piece of thread and we're going to fold it into a bight. Like this. We're going to place this bight over the end of our rope like this. Then, using the long end of my thread, I'm going to make a series of wraparounds around the end of my rope. After a series of wraparounds, take the tip of your working end and feed it under and through the bight like this. Then pull on the standing end a little bit. Then work this working end under the whipping by pulling on the standing end a little bit more. So you can see that the working end is now at about the middle point of our whipping. Pull on each of the strands, so the two ends, and this is going to tighten up your whipping. At this point, this end is secure, and we can trim the two ends. Like this. We're going to do the same thing with the other end, and then finally we can finish up the mat. I'm now going to start stitching my mat. I pick up a needle and a piece of thread. I thread my needle. Like this. Then on the other side of my thread, I'm going to tie an overhand knot just to help me anchor my thread. Like this. Now I can begin stitching. I start my stitching with the top strand, traveling through it, and through it for a second time to anchor my thread. Like this. I'm now going to pass through my remaining 4 strands to the bottom. Like this. Then I'm going to move back up, going through all of my strands, and through my strands again. And again, through my strands, all the way to the top. At this point, my thread is holding the two ends together quite well. I'm going to move back down through, let's say, 2 strands, I'm going to lock off my thread like this, traveling through my strand again and creating a loop. Pass through the loop and tighten up. Again, make another loop. Pass through it and tighten up. Then work your end all the way down to the bottom, trim it, and your stitching is complete. And with this we have a nice looking functional mat. So guys, at this point we came to the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and that you were able to complete the mat without too much of an issue. It is a great looking hot pad or doormat. With that said, thank you for joining me and I hope to see you next time.